Hi everybody. Not even 35 years old. No political dynasty. No backing from global powers like the US or France. Yet Ibrahim Traoré suddenly emerged and sent shockwaves through Washington and Paris. Just a young officer from Burkina Faso, a small West African country long dismissed by the world as insignificant. But in 2022, everything changed. In a single night, Ibrahim Traoré led a military coup, overthrew his country's president, and declared war on Western dominance in Africa. We are not slaves. We are not a colony. This is our land, and we will defend it. That was his first cry upon seizing power. It wasn't just a speech. It was a declaration of war against neocolonialism. And no one expected that this young man would actually dare to carry it out. It didn't take long for Traoré to make history. He expelled all French military forces from his country. He cut military cooperation, shut down foreign air bases, and even burned foreign aid laden with hidden agendas. The world was stunned. But for the people of Burkina Faso, it was a day of victory. But wait, behind all this bold political action lies a fact that Western media rarely highlight. Burkina Faso is a nation where 99% of the population is Muslim. And Traoré understands one thing clearly. True liberation isn't just about weapons. It's about faith. While other nations rush to build malls and military bases, Traoré builds mosques, Islamic schools, and a growing Dawah network. What truly drives Traoré to do all this? Why would a young man rather challenge the West than submit like so many other leaders? And most importantly, can Traoré survive the looming threats of assassination, sabotage, and international blockade? Amid the sounds of explosions, political betrayal, and pressure from global superpowers, there is one thing that has never wavered within Ibrahim Traoré: his faith. Traoré is known as someone who never misses a prayer, even on the battlefield. In the middle of military meetings or press conferences, he doesn't hesitate to pause, make wudu, and fulfill his obligation to Allah. If we want to defeat colonialism, we must first defeat our own desires. He once told a group of young generals in a secret speech, "For Traoré, Islam is not just an identity. It is a spiritual weapon, and from that, his greatest strength is born." Time and again, foreign intelligence agencies have tried to kill him. France and its allies even launched black operations to destabilize his government. But shockingly, every single attempt failed. Why? Because Traoré is not only protected by soldiers. He is guarded by a secret network, rooted in mosques, Islamic boarding schools, and loyal Muslim youth, spread across Burkina Faso. They are known as Ashabul Wafa, a shadowy group unknown to the media, but deeply feared by foreign agents. Traoré knows that a purely military fight would not be enough. So he launched the Jihad of Intellect and Soul, a movement aimed at awakening both the spiritual and intellectual strength of the youth. In a short time, mosques began to fill once again. Islamic schools sprang up across the country. Underground Dawah surged across universities and remote villages. Burkina Faso slowly began transforming, not just into a free country, but into a truly Muslim nation. CIA, Mossad, France's DGSE, all are still hunting him. The Western world knows one thing: if Traoré is allowed to live, he will awaken all of Africa, and that is their greatest nightmare. I'm not afraid of death. What I fear is dying in a state of heedlessness from Allah, Traoré said in a leaked interview with an underground media outlet. So the questions remain. What truly happened in the secret meetings between Traoré and Middle Eastern Muslim leaders? Who is the spiritual mentor guiding Traoré from behind the scenes? And how is Burkina Faso quietly preparing a new generation of intellectual mujahideen? As night fell over the Sahara Desert, and the sky grew so dark that the stars looked like holes torn through the heavens. A secret meeting took place. No cameras, no journalists, no Western observers. Only a few old military vehicles, a group of turbaned men, and one young leader the world is hunting, Ibrahim Traoré. Amidst the sandstorm, Traoré met with key figures from across the Muslim world, scholars from Sudan and Mauritania, veteran fighters from Mali and Niger, Muslim intellectuals from Iran and Turkey, unofficial envoys from Palestine and Hezbollah. They had one mission: to craft the roadmap for an Islamic awakening in Africa. We've been colonized for far too long. Now it's time to reconquer the hearts and minds of our children with faith and knowledge, said one of the scholars at the gathering. Traoré didn't just talk about Burkina Faso. He spoke of a united Africa, rising as a new Islamic force. On the map they laid out in the center of the desert tent, they envisioned grand mosques in every African capital, independent Islamic universities free from Western influence, inter-Muslim trade without the use of the dollar, a Pan-African Islamic media network to awaken the Ummah. They called it the Second Qibla Project. Soon after the meeting, their encrypted signals were intercepted by French intelligence. Washington immediately sent warnings to neighboring countries. Traoré must be stopped immediately. Even some so-called moderate Muslim nations, afraid of losing Western favor, joined the smear campaign, labeling him an extremist, a radical, a threat to regional stability. But the people of Burkina Faso knew the truth. They had seen real, tangible change. Food prices dropped. Corruption was purged. Children began memorizing the Quran, not Western pop songs. The night after the meeting, an unidentified drone flew over Traoré's convoy. Several of his guards were killed. Traoré was lightly injured, but it was then that he declared, "If my blood is spilled on this land, let it be the seed from which 1,000 young Muslims rise to continue the struggle." Now the whole world watches. Will Burkina Faso become the next Gaza, or the beginning of a new, unstoppable Islamic force? Everyone had been warned. From Washington to Paris, from Tel Aviv to Rabat, the Western world knew Ibrahim Traoré was no mere local threat. He was the spark that could ignite an Islamic revolution across Africa. And finally, they made their decision. He had to be extinguished by any means necessary. A secret coalition was quietly formed. Elite French forces, American combat drones, African spies from governments already bought and paid for. They called it Operation Desert Fire. The objective was clear: eliminate Traoré, topple his government, return Burkina Faso to Western hands. At dawn on Friday, the first rockets rained down on Ouagadougou. Military bases were bombed, communications severed, the internet shut down. The world knew nothing. What they didn't expect was this: Traoré and his people were already prepared. Since the secret meeting in the Sahara, he had quietly built a new defense system, lightly armed but well-trained civilian brigades, Ansar al-Qawm, village guerrillas united through underground Dawa networks, Quran memorizers who doubled as IT specialists and drone warfare experts, spiritual commanders who fortified the people's resolve. Burkina Faso didn't fight with brute strength. They fought with conviction. And that's what truly terrified the enemy. Cross swords, the unexpected battle. Within 48 hours, a counterattack was launched. A covert Western intel base was raided and seized. Several drones were shot down, and one foreign general was reportedly captured and taken deep into the desert for interrogation. But the most shocking moment was this: Traoré stepped onto the podium of the Grand Mosque, amid sirens and explosions, and led the Friday prayer. The footage spread underground across the Muslim world, and millions of African youth rose up, declaring, "We are the next Traoré." The world is now divided. The West labels him a rebel, a dictator, an extremist. But to the Muslim Ummah, he is a symbol of resistance. Burkina Faso still stands, and from the ashes of war, a new spirit is rising. Mosques filled with young hearts, a new generation of Quran memorizers, and the takbir now echoes louder than the sound of drones. Africa was once colonized. Africa was once silent. But now, from the soil of Burkina Faso, the world is witnessing a new awakening, a resistance not built on violence alone, but on faith, knowledge, and courage. And at the center of it all, one name is now etched into history: Ibrahim Traoré, not just a president, but a leader of the Ummah.